Just want to go over the 4 key points from our Restore Your Core and Pelvic Floor workshop last night. If you don't take anything else away or you don't remember anything else, these are the 4 things I do want you to remember. 1 is posture is important. The rib cage alignment with your pelvic floor, your pelvic brim does matter. You don't want to have your rib cage rung up like this, like a bell that's rung up. You don't want to have that rib flare, and you want to make sure that rib cage is centered right over your pelvis. So you don't want to have your pelvis sort of in this position or in this position. You get the idea. The second point I wanted to really make sure you guys took away is the core is 360 degrees. It is a 3-dimensional concept, and it's really everything from the top of your shoulders to your hips. It's just doesn't include the arms and the legs, okay? And you have a ceiling and you have a basement, and that ceiling is the diaphragm and the basement is the pelvic floor, and there is a special relationship between the diaphragm and the pelvic floor, and so that's why the alignment of the rib cage and the pelvic brim is important, and also why we emphasize the breathing component so much, not just with the exercises, which is definitely important. You want to look for abdominal bulging and things like that, the pressure control, but also in your daily activities of daily living, like picking up your kids, picking up your groceries, doing the laundry. You want to have that concept of blow before you go, which I got from Julie Weeb, is a pelvic floor or women's health physical therapist, as a reference. So always think blow before you go. You're going to exhale and lift your pelvic floor right before you do the task that requires some exertion. And that way you're not bearing down and pushing down into your pelvic floor. The third thing is that your pelvic floor can either be too tight or too loose. It's a misconception that everybody just needs to do Kegels if you've got pelvic floor or leaking or incontinence issues. That's not necessarily the case. If you have a hypertonic or a pelvic floor that's too tight, that can cause you a lot of problems as well, and Kegels is not necessarily going to fix that. And then the fourth thing is that your pelvic floor is part of a whole system. And so as an orthopedic physical therapist, someone who specializes in bones, joints, and muscles, I'm going to take a look at your spine function, how your spine moves, and your hip function, the control that you have or don't have, and relate that back to your core and your pelvic floor as a whole system of why you're leaking when you're running, coughing, sneezing, jumping, or jumping rope, all of those things.